To some in the natural health field, ascorbic acid is not vitamin C, alpha-tocopherol is not vitamin E, retinoic acid is not vitamin A, and so on to the other vitamins, and they're convinced that vast sums of money have been spent to make these myths part of conventional wisdom. However, there's also an abundant amount of published research demonstrating the proven benefits of these isolated and synthetic forms, so they can't be discredited and they also have their use. Their beliefs are in nature vitamins are not individual molecular compounds, but instead vitamins are biological complexes. They're multi-step biochemical interactions whose action is dependent upon a number of variables within the biological terrain. The vitamin activity only takes place when all conditions are met within the environment, and when all cofactors and components of the entire vitamin complex are present and working together. The vitamin activity is even more than the sum of all the parts. It also involves timing. Many believe the vitamins can't be isolated from their complexes and still perform their specific life functions within the cells. When isolated into artificial commercial forms like ascorbic acid, these purified synthetics act as drugs. They're no longer vitamins, and to call them such is inaccurate. A vitamin is a working process consisting of nutrients, enzymes, coenzymes, antioxidants, and trace mineral activators. This was said by Royal Lee in What is a Vitamin? Applied Tropology in August 1956. The FDA not only persecuted Lee for challenging the economics of synthetic vitamins produced by the giant drug companies, but he was actually ordered by a court to burn all his research of the past 20 years. Most sources equate vitamin C with ascorbic acid, as though they're the same thing, but they're not. Ascorbic acid is an isolate, a fraction, a distillate of naturally occurring vitamin C. In addition to ascorbic acid, the vitamin C must include rutin, bioflavonoids, factor K, factor J, factor P, tyrosinase, ascorbiginin, and other components. In addition, mineral cofactors also need to be available in the proper amounts. If any of these parts are missing, there's no vitamin C, no vitamin activity. So when some of them are present, the body needs to draw on its own stores to make up the differences, so the whole vitamin can be present. Only then can the vitamin activity take place, provided all other conditions and cofactors are present. Ascorbic acid is described by some merely as the antioxidant wrapper portion of the vitamin C. The ascorbic acid protects the functional parts of the vitamin from rapid oxidation and breakdown. Over 90% of ascorbic acid is manufactured from a process involving cornstarch and volatile acids. Most US vitamin companies then buy the bulk ascorbic acid from a single facility. After that, marketing takes over, and each company makes its own labels, its own claims, and its own formulations, each one claiming to have the superior form of vitamin C, even though it all came from the same source. From the outset, it's crucial to understand the difference between vitamins and vitamin activity. The vitamin is the biochemical complex. Vitamin activity means the actual biological and cellular changes that take place when the stage is set for the vitamin complex to act in the body. Think of it like gas in a car. Pumping gas into the tank doesn't necessarily mean the car is going to go anywhere. Other conditions and factors also need to be present for the activity to occur. The gas line to the carburetor needs to be clear. The carburetor jet needs to be set. There needs to be an exact mixture of airflow. The ignition needs to be turned on. The spark plugs have to be clean. The exact amount of gas needs to reach each spark plug right before it fires. No gas can be left in the cylinder after the plug fires. If any of this stuff is missing, there's no activity and the car doesn't run, or at least it doesn't run very well. Your synthetic fractionated ascorbic acid is a chemical, a cornstarch derivative, a sulfuric acid byproduct, or now an extract produced from genetically modified E. coli bacteria. In your body, it's seen as just another drug. Synthetic vitamins can have toxic effects from megadoses and actually increase the white blood cell count. Normally, vitamins are only necessary in minute quantities on a daily basis. Whole food vitamins, by contrast, are non-toxic since the vitamin is complexed in its integral working form and it requires nothing from the body and triggers no immune response. Scurvy is a disease that's caused by a vitamin C deficiency. It's characterized by bleeding gums, slow wound healing, softening bones, loose teeth, ulcerations of the mouth and the digestive tract, general weight loss and fatigue. From 1650 to 1850, half of all seamen and transoceanic voyagers died of scurvy. It was discovered by ship surgeon Thomas Lind in the early 1800s that British soldiers were spared the disease altogether simply by a diet rich in citrus fruits. Since limes travel well, they were common choice during those times, and thus the expression limeys was coined to describe the British sailors. It was later found that both at sea and in prison, potatoes were equally successful for preventing scurvy, and much cheaper to obtain. We find there's less than 20 milligrams of ascorbic acid per potato. Yet this small amount, since it's complex in a food source, is all that the body needs to not only prevent scurvy, but also to cure it. Whole food vitamin C, as found in potatoes, onions and citrus fruit, is able to quickly cure any case of scurvy. Sven Georgi found he could never cure scurvy with an isolated ascorbic acid by itself. Realizing he could always cure scurvy with the impure vitamin C found in simple foods, he discovered there was other factors that needed to be at work for the vitamin C activity to take place. So he returned to the lab and eventually made the discovery of another member of the vitamin C complex, rutin. All the factors in the complex, as Royal Lee and Dr. Sven Georgi came to understand, like the ascorbic acid, rutin and the other factors, were synergistics. They were cofactors which together spark the functional interdependence of the biologically related nutrient factors. Or, wheels within wheels was used to describe the interplay of these cofactors. Each of the other synergistics in the C complex has a separate function. The P factor for blood vessel strength, the J factor for oxygen carrying capacity of the red cells, the tyrosinase as an essential enzyme for enhancing white blood cell effectiveness. The ascorbic acid is just the antioxidant outer shell, the protector of all the other synergists, so that they're able to perform their individual functions. Linus Pauling, double Nobel Prize laureate, was fond of megadosing on ascorbic acid of up to 10 grams per day. He lived to be 93. Bernard Jensen suggests the ascorbic acid has an acidifying effect in the body, making an unfriendly environment for viruses, candida and pathogenic bacteria. In contrast to those who recommend the alkaline diet, he contends that most infectious pathogenic bacteria thrive in an alkaline pH. Pauling's good health then was not a result of the synthetic vitamin activity, but the good genetics and the acidifying effect are likely what brought the longevity to Linus Pauling. He also eventually died of cancer. Vitamins are living complexes and they contribute to other higher living complexes like cell repair, collagen manufacture and the maintenance of blood circulation. Ascorbic acid is not a living complex, it's a copy of a part of a living complex known as vitamin C. The ascorbic acid is a fractionated, crystalline isolate of vitamin C. Most vitamins can't be made by the body needs to take them in as food. The best source then, obviously, is whole food rich in vitamins. Because of soil depletion, mineral depletion, pesticides, air pollution and erosion, it's common knowledge that the food grown today can have only a fraction of nutrient value that it had 50 years ago. This means we only receive a fraction of the vitamins and minerals necessary for the normal human cell function. Roy Lee described the American diet as the cultivation and production of devitalized foods. Dr. Weston Price described these empty products as the foods of commerce. Vitamins and minerals are not functionally separable. They make each other work. An example, vitamin D is necessary for the body to absorb calcium. Copper is necessary for vitamin C activity, and so on. Mineral deficiencies can cause vitamin deficiencies, and vice versa. Epidemic mineral deficiency in America is well documented as a result of systematic soil depletion. So that's the other prime difference between the whole food vitamins and synthetics. The whole food vitamins contain within them the essential trace minerals necessary for their synergistic operation, while the synthetic vitamins contain no trace minerals, and they rely on and deplete the body's own mineral reserves. Following the German agricultural methods of von Liebig in the mid-1800s, American farmers found that nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium was all that was necessary for crops to look good. As long as the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium is added to soil, the crops can be produced and sold year after year from the same soil. They look okay, but the other necessary trace minerals vital for the human nutrition are virtually absent from most of the American soil after all these years of over-farming. Many of these minerals, like zinc, copper and magnesium, are necessary cofactors of vitamin activity. The depleted topsoil is one simple, widespread mechanism for both vitamin and mineral deficiency in America today. This doesn't even take into account the tons of poisonous herbicides and pesticides that are dumped on crops. This is according to the UN. 2 million tons of pesticides are used worldwide annually. And we're still only talking about the people who actually eat raw fruits and vegetables, which is a minority. Processed food composes the majority of what most Americans eat. The only nutrients in most processed foods are enriched and fortified. When a doctor says that food supplements are all unnecessary because we can get everything that we need from our food, that doctor is lacking the basic information published and agreed upon by his own peers. Whether or not we need supplementation is no longer an issue, except for one who's totally out of touch. The issue is what kind and how much. The vitamin and mineral deficiency can be tagged to practically any disease and syndrome known to man. It's been said there's only one major disease, and that is malnutrition. And malnutrition of the affluent is the natural result of the food of commerce. There's around 110 companies who sell vitamins in the US. Less than 5 of them use whole food vitamins. And this reason is simple: the whole food vitamins are expensive to make. A few of the largest pharmaceutical firms in the world mass-produce synthetic vitamins for the vast majority of these 110 vitamin companies, who then put their own label on them, and every company claims theirs is the best. Whole food vitamins are obtained by taking a vitamin-rich plant, removing the water and the fibre in a cold vacuum process, free of chemicals, and then packaging for their stability. The entire vitamin complex in this way can be captured intact, retaining its functional and nutritional integrity. Upon ingestion, the body is not required to draw on its own reserves in order to complete any missing elements from the vitamin complex. The other trick is the word fortified. Generally, this means the food itself is devoid of nutrients or enzymes, or they're destroyed in processing, so they try to pump it up a little with some vitamins. Cheap synthetic vitamin sprays. And all that's required from the manufacturer to use on the label is enriched and fortified. These words are red flags. If a food needs to be fortified or enriched, you can bet it's already dead. The megavitamin theory doesn't really hold when it comes to some synthetics. If a little is good, more is not always better. Macro doses of some forms of vitamin E and also vitamin D have been shown to decrease immune function significantly. The discoverer of thiamine, a B vitamin, was a man who came up with the word vitamin, Dr. Kashmir Funk. He said this about synthetics: synthetic vitamins are highly inferior to vitamins from natural sources. Also, the synthetic product is well known to be far more toxic. Nutritional authority Decava describes it. The natural food source vitamins are enzymatically alive. Man-made synthetic vitamins are dead chemicals. Enzymes are catalysts in chemical reactions. They don't get used up in the chemical reaction, but they speed up the rate at which the chemical reaction occurs. Some enzymes have been shown to increase the speed of a chemical reaction by a factor of 1,000,000. Natural whole food vitamins are very low potency. Remember, 20 milligrams of vitamin C in a potato was able to cure a patient of scurvy. That is low potency. The low potency is all we need. Low potency is enough to bring about the vitamin activity. High potency overshoots the mark. The chemical is very pure and refined, like the difference between white sugar and the type of sugar that's in an apple. The same type of incomplete action can be seen with any synthetic vitamin. If we take beta-carotene for a minute, which the body turns into vitamin A. If you remember, vitamin A is necessary for good eyesight, DNA synthesis, and to protect the cells from free radicals. A study reported on some 30,000 Finnish subjects, and it showed conclusively that synthetic vitamin A had no antioxidant effect whatsoever. A true antioxidant helps to protect heart muscle, lungs, and arterial surfaces from breaking down prematurely. In this study, the subjects who received the synthetic beta-carotene actually had an 8% higher incidence of fatal heart attacks, strokes, and lung cancer than those who got the placebo. It stands to reason the synthetic brought no vitamin activity to the tissue that it needed. As a dead, purified chemical introduced to the body, the synthetic further stressed the immune system, the liver, and the kidneys, which all had to break down the odd chemical and remove it from the body. It would be bad enough if they were harmless, but synthetic vitamins actually can have a negative effect. Vitamin A was discovered in 1919. By 1924, it had been broken down and separated from its natural whole food complex and purified. By 1931, La Roche, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world even today, had succeeded in synthesizing vitamin A. That meant they'd created a purely chemical copy of a fraction of a naturally occurring vitamin A. Naturally occurring vitamin A is found associated with an entire group of other components. These are the retinols, the retinoids, retinal, carotenoids, carotenes, fatty acids, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin B, vitamin D, and enzymes. Isolated from the other factors, vitamin A is a fraction and it can't perform its biological functions. Taken as a synthetic, it needs to draw on the list of resources already in the body in order to complete its makeup. The whole food vitamin A, by contrast, is already complete and ready to go. Most synthetic vitamin A consists only of retinol, retinal, and retinoic acid. The well-publicized potential for toxicity with a megadose of vitamin A involves one of these three. Vitamin A toxicity, known as hypervitaminosis, always results from an excess of synthetic purified vitamin A and never from whole food vitamin A. Effects of vitamin A toxicity include tumor enhancement, joint disorders, osteoporosis, extreme dryness of the eyes, mouth and skin, enlargement of the liver and spleen, immune depression and birth defects. Beta-carotene is a precursor the body can convert to vitamin A. Unfortunately, as a supplement, synthetic beta-carotene is usually stabilized in refined vegetable oils. In this trans fatty acid form, oxidation occurs, and the chemically pure beta-carotene can no longer act as a nutrient because it was changed. Almost all synthetic beta-carotene is produced by the Swiss drug firm Hoffmann-La Roche. This form can no longer be converted to vitamin A. The best it can be is worthless, and at worst it can be toxic. Natural vitamin A and beta-carotene are well known as immune boosters and cancer fighters in their role as antioxidants. Synthetic vitamin A, by contrast, has actually brought about significant increases in cancer. A study in Finland proves that smokers with large doses of synthetic beta-carotene had lung cancer incidence increased by 18%. These findings were corroborated 2 years later in another study written up in Lancet. Pharmacological doses of synthetic beta-carotene were found to block the antioxidant activity of another 50 naturally occurring carotenoids in the diet. Anti-cancer activity was thus blocked by the synthetic. With the vast outpouring of the wrong information about vitamin A and C, the findings of a 1991 article in Health Counselor are no surprise. 50% of Americans are deficient in vitamin A, and 41% are deficient in vitamin C, and the synthetic vitamins cannot prevent these deficiencies. In one experiment, synthetic vitamin B, or thiamine, was shown to render 100% of a group of pigs sterile. 100% should be considered a significant finding. Perhaps the fact synthetic vitamin B comes from coal tar might have something to do with this. According to Los Angeles naturopath Dr. Jack Singh, all commercial lecithins in supplements, as well as most vitamin D, come from irradiated vegetable oils. That's rancid, oxidizing trans fatty acids. A birthday party for free radicals. This is the precise mechanism for arterial wall breakdown prior to plaque deposits, then atherosclerosis, then heart disease. 100 years ago, if a medical doctor saw a case of cancer, he'd call his colleagues to come and have a look, telling him it was unlikely they'd ever see another case, as cancer was so rare. People rarely died of heart attacks. In fact, the term heart attack itself didn't exist. There was no incidence at all of atherosclerosis. Diabetes was practically unheard of. What did they eat? Fruits, vegetables, meats, butter and lard. But none of it was processed with drugs and chemicals. Today, 1 in 3 dies of cancer. 1 in 2 dies of heart disease. Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the US. In the 80s, the World Health Organization ranked the US as number 22 in the world for infant mortality. Male sperm count is less than 20% of what it was in 1929. Testosterone in males is continuing to drop, and infant mortality is up, and birth defects are up. Although a lot of this information is viewed as pseudoscience by the pharmaceutical industry, it's advisable to consume a wide variety of organic whole foods to meet your daily requirements of all the necessary nutrients. The water-soluble vitamins are best obtained through organic produce grown in mineral-rich soil, and the fat-soluble vitamins A, E, D and K are obtained through fish, raw dairy, avocados, raw nuts, raw coconut and clean meat. If you're interested in multivitamin supplementation, first look at the superfoods, for example, 1 teaspoon of spirulina a day, 1 teaspoon of moringa a day. Then, if you have a health condition, look for solutions with adaptogenic herbs before looking for synthetic vitamins. Chlorella and bee pollen are other good natural multivitamin containing foods. Nutrient yeast flakes are a good source of B vitamins. Shilajit or humic and fulvic acid are good sources of trace minerals that are normally depleted from the soils through overfarming. To book a consultation or to learn about herbs, supplements and natural treatments, check out my website.